Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. In a day or two, Typhoon Pepito will be barreling across several regions in the country, starting in the Eastern Samar area. Pepito will head towards the Bicol region, southern Tagalog, Metro Manila, and central and northern Luzon. Many provinces, especially in the central and northern regions, are still reeling from the devastations left by recent storms. President Bongbong Marcos, in a command conference this afternoon, ordered all relevant agencies to evacuate people in the storms and inform coastal communities of possible storm surges. Let's get on point with Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno, Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense, who joins us this evening. Yusek, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening to everyone.
Yusek, tell us more about yung mga bilin at order ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos during today's command conference.
Yes, ma'am. Laging dalawa yung pinaka-importanting binibili niya. Of course, number one will be the relief items that will always be ready and prepositioned. Potable water dapat laging ready yan. And then the food items coming from the DSWD and the non-food items, hygiene kits, which will come from the Office of Civil Defense, and medical kits from the Department of Health. But aside from that, importante, yung mga rescue assets and personnel that are strategically deployed all over the country, especially focusing on the regions of Region 5 sa Bicol. Pero naghahanda rin kami dahil the Typhoon Pepito might also, as projected or forecasted, dadaan yan sa Region 8 sa Samar area. Then, pabalik na naman dun sa 6 na bagyong dinaanan sa norte. So, we're strategically positioned, especially our uniformed services, meaning yung Armed Forces of the Philippines, including the Philippine Coast Guard and the Philippine National Police, and their assets that are needed for rescue work.
Pag-usapan po natin, for example, in Bicol, remember, sir, I think it was during Christine, if I'm not mistaken, di ho ba,
yes,
na nangailangan po ng mga extra equipment. It was the former Vice President also asking for additional help para po sa mga kababayan natin doon. Are there extra assets now in place, especially in the Bicol region, because it is projected as of now that it may make landfall in Catanduanes?
Yes. Actually, in terms of assets, ganito po, ma'am. Marami tayo niyan in terms of air assets, rescue assets such as rubber boats. Ang nangyari kasi sa Bicol, yun din yung pinaghandaan natin ngayon, yung access to the areas that were really gravely affected during Christine. Hindi namin ma-access yung Naga during that time dahil naiipit kami dun sa daan papuntang Naga City. So ngayon, pinaghandaan na rin yan in case magkaroon ulit ng mga daan na hindi pwedeng, those are not passable. So, nakaposition na rin kami from the south, from the north. Hopefully walang masyadong landslide. So, that's what has happened during Christine. Kasi nga, talaga na hindi kami makadaan doon sa mga dapat namin daanan. It took the DPWH to remove the unintended stranded vehicles na nandun sa mga kalye. Nung natanggal na yun, and then nag-recede naman yung tubig, doon lang kami nakadaan. Isa pa hong binili ni Presidente, yun ay parang moving forward item. We had to be sure na yung lahat ng data with regard to storm surge, o gusto nga namin tawagin tsunami para mas maintindihan ng mga tao. Although iba kasing konsepto ng tsunami, but for purposes of easier understanding of the communities that would be affected, yung tsunami dapat napapakita na yan graphically during our dissemination of warnings or advisories sa mga communities. Kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, ang pre-disaster meetings, gagawin namin yan sa Office of Civil Defense with the other NDRRMC members, and then ikakascade down yan using all available tools for communications aside from the formal reportings namin, such as emails, calls, meetings. ginagamit na rin dapat yung SOCMED at importante yung tulong sa amin ng media para maibaba hanggang barangay level.
Opo.
Because at this point, alam naman na nasa data na rin yan ng NGB, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau of the DNR. Kailangan lang talagang gamitin ng mga kasamahan natin sa LGUs.
Right. Tama po yun. Yung sinasabi niyong sa Mines and Geosciences Bureau, I just want to go back to what you said earlier. It's very vital, sir, because the President reiterated that. I think at some point, was it during the start or dun po sa umpisa nung command conference, ay sinasabi nga niya, hindi ho ba tinanong ni Pangulo kung nakakascade ba talaga sa mga LGU yung mga data o yung mga kailangan nilang malaman. And he underscored the importance of being able to cascade the important information doon po sa mga LGU.
That's right. Actually, in terms of yung mga automatic systems na natin, the quick answer is yes. Insofar as the provincial, municipal, and the barangay disaster risk reduction officers, nagagawa ho yan. But another story kung talagang sinusunod nila, lalo na kung tungkol sa pag-evacuate ng mga kababayan.
Ang kakaibahan ho kasi ngayon, Yusek, yung baha, dahil marami po sa mga kababayan natin, sa mga interview po namin dito sa Billionaire News Channel, sinasabi po na binaha sila, kumbaga, una, yung baha is unprecedented. Or number two, hindi sila talaga binabaha dati at ngayon binaha sila. Kumbaga, nag-iba na ho kasi yung hindi na doon sa nakasanayan, mas malala at binabaha na po yung mga lugar na hindi binabaha. And likewise, sir, yung mga landslide-prone areas na mga kababayan natin na patuloy na naninirahan doon ay talagang kailangan ay lumikas. Hindi ho ba?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, for the long-term solution talaga, kahit anong gawin nating preparations, kung yung mga kababayan naman natin na dapat wala dun sa mga highly vulnerable areas such as landslide-prone areas, dapat for the long term talaga, wala sila doon. Although it's not that easy, naintindihan natin yung dilemma ng local government units. But for the long term, talagang dapat sundin yung wag tumira doon sa mga communities, including halimbawa, hindi lang doon sa ulan, no? Including the permanent danger zones doon sa mga bulkan. Diyan lang, di na tayo lalayo. Diyan, no-brainer po yan, ma'am. Yung mga ganun, dapat sundin na talaga yan.
I agree with you, sir. Sabi nga ng iba, political will lang yan. Pero you are also correct in saying it's actually more than that. It is political will, but it's also being able to find areas where it will be habitable, hindi ho ba, para sa mga kababayan natin. But again, that's for another interview, sir. So, possible landfall is Catanduanes, but of course, Yusek, it needs to be monitored kung ano talaga, if it will remain on track, hindi ho ba, itong si Pepito?
Yes, ma'am. Ang level or standard of preparations lang na ginagawa ng buong NDRMC, hindi lang naman ng Office of Civil Defense, we always would adopt a worst-case scenario preparations. Ibig sabihin, tinitingnan namin yung maximum possible areas that can be gravely affected by typhoons, including yung tinatawag na ring band or yung kaulapan na magdadala ng talaga maraming tubig. Especially now, according to Pag-asa, 200 meters up a day for 2 days, ibig sabihin 400 meters yung ibubuo sa isang lugar. Malakas yan. Ganito ang implication kasi niyan, ma'am. Pag 100 meters for 24 hours yung ibubuhos ng ulan, yan kasi yung threshold wherein yung mga highly vulnerable landslide-prone areas, delikado na sila. Yan ang ibig sabihin pag 100. In fact, ang problema natin ngayon, highly saturated na yung mga dati nang dinaanan ng 6 na previous typhoons before Pepito. So, yung 100 meters can be 50 meters, 24 hours na lang yan. Kaya talagang yung mga dapat nang lumikas, as you mentioned, kahit noon hindi sila usually parang delikado, wag na nilang hulaan. Kasi talagang ina-announce natin. Yes,
Hindi ba sinabi ni Pangulo kanina, evacuate tonight?
Yes.
Yung po sa kanyang sinabi.
Ang window natin between now and tomorrow afternoon. In fact, sa Region 8 sa Samar, mga tao natin doon, nararamdaman na nila yung hangin and they know that they have less than 1 day to react. So yung dapat mag-evacuate na sila ngayon. Kung di naman sila talagang tinamaan ng maluba, so okay lang yun kaysa magsisi tayo sa huli.
Tama ho yun. Tama po yung inyong sinabi. It's better also na mag-overreact or overact at overprepare. So, Yusek, so what's really important right now is also maybe it's a good opportunity for you to talk sa ating pong mga kababayan ngayon dahil baka yung ibang mga lugar, baka yung ibang mga lugar for now, in fact, I'm pretty sure yung mga ibang lugar ay maganda pang panahon this afternoon. Ano po? We were speaking to an official from likewise from Albay. Maganda naman yung naging interview dahil kanilang sinasabi na they have been preparing for the past at least 2 days for Pepito, which is obviously a good start. But maganda pa ho yung panahon, but anything can change in a matter of hours, hindi ho ba?
Tama po. Kaya nga ho, pinipilit ho namin mas maunawaan pa. Wag nang hulaan ng mga kababayan natin. Yung Regions 5, Region 8, alam naman nila kung saan sila, hanggang Regions 1, 2, and 3, kung saan na naman yung dating dinaanan ng 6 na bagyo. Gawin na lang ulit natin yung paglilikas. Meron pang panahon tayo hanggang bukas. Ang good news naman, meron namang sa preemptive evacuation order natin, there are right now more than 12,299 families na sumud na from those regions. Subalit kulang pa yan based on data. Kailangan ituloy-tuloy pa ng local government units yung pagpapalikas doon sa mga kababayan nilang nandun sa talagang hindi lang sa dadaanan ng bagyo, kundi yung tinatawag na rain band. Maghanda tayo from Region 5, Region 8 hanggang Norte ulit tayo. Huwag na tayong maghulaan.
And of course, let's monitor Pag-asa likewise and listen to our local government officials. Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno, sir, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Thank you din po at salamat.
We'll be taking a short break. When we return, we'll talk to Undersecretary Felicitas Bay of the Department of Migrant Workers. How will a Trump administration affect thousands of undocumented Filipinos in the United States? This is On Point. We'll be right back.
News Channel.
Welcome back. You're watching On Point. Some 250,000 to 300,000 illegal Filipino immigrants in the United States are in danger of being deported once incoming U.S. President Donald Trump greeners are now again facing uncertainty back home. Let's get on point with Undersecretary Felicitas Bay of the Foreign Employment and Welfare Services of the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW. Yusek Bay, good to see you in person. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, good evening, Pinky, and good evening to all your televiewers.
So, possible mass deportation once President-elect Donald Trump assumes office. Have there been...
Got from our migrant workers' offices. When I say haven't received its official calls inquiring about this, we haven't received reports from our migrant workers' offices. We have 2 offices in the United States. One is the Migrant Workers Office in Washington, D.C., and then we have a Migrant Workers Office in L.A., Los Angeles.
I can imagine there must be a lot of Filipinos also in the West Coast, Yusek. So that estimate, are we looking at about 250 to 300,000 undocumented Filipinos in the U.S.?
Yes.
Would that be accurate?
Yeah, based on what we have also received from reports that there are about 250,000 to 300,000 undocumented workers or illegal stayers.
That's why nabibilang siguro sila doon. They're classified as that. There was a report that I saw that during the Trump presidency, there were 3,500 deported Filipinos from 2017 to 2020. So the question is this going to be a whole government approach for Filipinos who may leave the United States and come home?
Similar doing in areas like, in jurisdictions like Israel, Lebanon, and those of our some nationals in Gaza and West Bank. The Philippine government has a whole of government approach. So it's not only the DMW. Of course, we take the lead from the Department of Foreign Affairs. And then we have our attached agency, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, and we also have the Department of Health, especially for those in areas wherein they have been traumatized or they suffered some distressful situation. Then we also have the DSWD for psychosocial counseling. So if there's mass deportation or a forced deportation, there might be instances that our nationals may not be used to it, or we really do not know what will be the mechanics of the deportation. So it's not for us to surmise, to presume at the moment because we haven't received any official guidelines or anything. Because of course, Mr. Trump has not yet assumed or hasn't taken office yet. So,
but have you met with the concerned departments, for example, the DFA, the DMW, the DOH, the DSWD, even TESDA? Has there been a meeting? On
the matter of the supposedly forced or massive deportation, I would presume that my principals, I mean like the secretary may have met, or they might be working towards this. Of course, we have to go through certain mechanics. So we still do not, as I mentioned earlier, while we would perceive or we would anticipate that there will be massive deportation, we still do not know how it will take place,
right,
or what would be the process, what would be the mechanics. So we'll take it up from there.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we have done that in war-torn areas, that there is always a whole government approach. So magtutulungan naman yung ating mga government agencies.
I guess what's important, Yusek, is to have a comprehensive contingency
Yes.
plan, as called for even by some of the senators. Because
Yes.
if we compare it to other countries, like where the DMW could or is focusing at the moment or could be busy right now, it could be Gaza, it could be Israel, it could be Lebanon. If you talk about undocumented Filipinos in the United States who might have to or want to or are
Yes.
forced to come home, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of them.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is a big contingent that you will have to prepare for.
Yes. And yes, we understand it's a big number. Assuming all of them would go home, it would be a very big number. And definitely government will put all hands on deck and would exert all efforts to be ready and to support our Filipinos who would later on be back in the country.
Yusek Bay, tell us the exact role of the various departments. For example, what is the DFA going to do and what is the DMW going to do? Tsaka na lang po ako pupunta sa TESDA and DOH.
Yeah. Of course, I mentioned to you that the Department of Foreign Affairs, we observed the one-country team approach. So we follow the lead of the DFA because this one is a big, we deal big in numbers. But since we also, the Department of Migrant Workers handles documented or undocumented workers who might be in distress, then with that, should there be a need for, should there be a situation that would need medical, or should there be any situation that would need for repatriation, then because I wouldn't like to presume that the U.S. government will handle this, but Mr. Trump mentioned, the incoming president mentioned that it will be all costs to the government, the U.S. government. But of course, we wouldn't know that. But we will just be prepared and.
But I'd like to know, ma'am.
For the
Sorry for
repatriation.
interrupting you,
Yes,
but
yes, yes.
what exactly is the role of the DFA compared to the DMW?
Okay.
In terms of repatriating or
Okay.
yung pagbabalik po ng mga kababayan natin mula sa
Yung
Estados Unidos?
sa DFA, because the matter on assistance to nationals have already been transferred or turned over to the DMW insofar as OFWs are concerned. Now, for non-OFWs, then that would be handled by the DFA. So if there are, let us say, students, those who are awaiting naturalization, or for those who are under a cultural exchange program, then that would be handled by the DFA.
I see.
And
the
then
rest?
those who are really tourists, so the tourists who stayed in the US,
yung
Yes.
nagstay po doon, who handles them? Yung
That's
hindi
the
na po umalis
DFA.
ng
That's the
Estados
DFA.
Unidos.
But if the tourists who stay there as also was able to find or was able to engage in employment, and then so that the DMW will be entering to the picture.
Doon po papasok ang DMW.
That's why I mentioned to you
I see.
earlier, an OFW who is documented or undocumented.
Yeah, is under the task of the DMW,
Yes, yes.
whether legal or illegal,
yes.
documented or undocumented, ganun po. There is a fund called the Action Fund to the tune of 1.3 billion pesos. Action, I believe, is Agarang Kalinga.
It's 1.2 billion pesos.
1.2.
Yes.
Dinagdagan ko po ng 1.2
No,
billion
we're anticipating
pesos.
that because there might be an increase.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's Agarang Kalinga at Saklolo sa OFW. So what kind of assistance can be given to the Filipino documented or undocumented who may want or who may be forced to come home?
Okay, so one would be, should repatriation be not handled, then the Philippine government will be handling or will be working towards the repatriation costs. But at the same time, upon their arrival, we have reintegration programs if they because they're getting into the mainstream of the Philippine government and Philippine employment. At the same time, we also have some financial assistance.
How much? Will you be able to, are you at liberty to tell us now
Yeah.
what they will be accepting or they will be
Okay.
getting from the government?
Okay, it will be in the range of 50,000 to 75,000 pesos.
That's it. For every Filipino, whether documented
Documented or undocumented. We're doing that
Besides two.
now with Lebanon and Israel for those who have been displaced.
Yeah.
So we're providing for Lebanon and Israel 75,000.
Yeah, it's a one-time, parang
Yeah,
tama
one
ba,
time.
ayuda or assistance?
Yes, financial
Yeah.
assistance.
But apart from that,
We have reintegration programs
Okay.
also. So we can do a job matching or a job placement in
has that been
partnership.
successful, Yusek?
Yes, we have, for those who have returned from Lebanon and Israel, some of them have reported back to us that they are finding jobs and that the amount that we have given also, they have put up their small businesses, like a small kiosk or a sari-sari store, because it's not only from our end, not only from the DMW, but also from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, and even our partners, the Department of Social Worker and Social Welfare and
The
Development.
SWD.
Yes,
And TESDA.
Yes,
Yeah.
TESDA, it's very material because they provide training vouchers, which can also be transferable to the family members.
All right. And there's still one emergency repatriation fund.
Fund.
Iba pa ho ito sa
That's
Action Fund.
Yes, the Emergency Repatriation Fund is a fund care of our attached agency, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. So it's an assistance fund for repatriation purposes. So madaming nagtutulungan sa pamahalaan para hindi lamang dun sa coming from the US, but also from all other countries wherein we would have concerns of Filipinos who are under distress or who would like to return to the country and would not have sufficient means because they were not able to save or they were duped by their employers.
Undersecretary Bay, let's briefly talk about the situation of our kababayans in Lebanon.
Yes.
Do we have more of our kababayans coming home?
Okay, tomorrow we have a group of 16 overseas Filipino workers who will be arriving tomorrow evening, and we still have 130 ready for repatriation. So we're just scheduling the flights, and we have 193 for exit clearance because before one could exit the country and there's certain documentation and requirements for their exit. So with that, so if we have 130 ready for repatriation and 193, that would be almost
320.
Yeah, 320. And currently, we also have, we maintain shelters in Lebanon. So aside from the shelter of the Migrant Workers Office, we also have a private facility. It's taken care of by our office. And we have one private facility, and then we have one dormitory, and then the Migrant Workers Office shelter.
This is in Lebanon?
Yes,
Okay.
in Lebanon. So the total number of Filipinos being sheltered is 146.
I see. So there are 16 on their way home tomorrow?
Tomorrow. They'll be arriving tomorrow evening.
Yeah, and another over 160 waiting to be repatriated.
Yes,
And
130 waiting to be repatriated. We're just scheduling. So
for
every,
flights,
yes.
yeah. And then 193 waiting for their exit clearances.
Exit clearances.
Kumbaga para mabigyan na sila ng go signal to
Yes,
leave Lebanon.
to leave
That's
the
still,
country.
That's still a lot of our
Yes.
kababayans wanting to come home.
Yes.
And I hope flights will be mounted soon so that the 130 will finally make their way back to the country.
Yes, we recently had a chartered flight. That was October 26, where 290 of our kababayans, we took them home. And they're now back with their respective families. And we will work it out. But in the meantime, every day, if we can schedule somebody to go home, even if it's one or two, if they want to be repatriated, and we can find the airlines or the booking for them, then we will do.
Thank you so much for your time, Undersecretary Bay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's On Point. Join us again on Monday at 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.